right. So a lot of what we did yesterday is what we're going to build on today, right? As I said before, today you're going to have an assignment, and it's basically going to take all those years of procrastination and break it down into a few minutes. There's one other thing I want to discuss before we go in. And yesterday, a student called me, right? And she was like, "Sir, I don't know what to write." And she ranting and raving about a topic, right? And I said, "So why don't you write about the topic?" "No, sir, but I don't." And she giving me all the information on it. I said, "Listen, I'm hanging up this phone now. And when you call me back, write 4 lines of a poem, just 4 lines of a poem. And then we will talk." So she calls me back. I was eating a plate of rice and corned beef. That is all the time I had. She called me back with about an 8 stanza poem. And I say all this to say is plenty times we have convinced ourselves that we can't do something, or we don't have the time, or that is impossible for us to do. But we have it in us. We have it in us. And when Rebecca asked about sensitive topics and sensitive issues, right? Understand that there are a lot of people suffering from that sensitive issue that you're talking about, right? So when you do produce that work, there are going to be a lot of people who could identify with what you're talking about. You understand what I'm saying? Because nobody's talking about it, but it have a lot of people experiencing it. Imagine if right now, all of us used to wear two right side shoes, right? Everybody here sitting down right now, and all of us wearing right side shoes, but nobody's saying anything about it. But everybody in pain, right? Until that person say, "Hey, my left foot really hurting me because of this right side shoe I'm wearing," right? Then everybody will say, "Hey, yeah, boy, we should do something about it." But if everybody stay quiet, right, then nothing happens, no change occurs. So I don't want you all to be afraid of ever talking about anything that is affecting you personally, because I can guarantee you that you are not alone. You are not yes, baby.
I think I used the wrong word with sensitive. It really meant controversial.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, yeah. No problem.
So it's both actually.
And that's fine. But the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of us are scared to talk about things that impact us personally because we think that it's unique to us, while a lot of people suffering from the things that you have to say. So don't ever hold back the things that you have to say because you feel that nobody wants it. Yes, most of us, and we're going to tackle that tomorrow, right? Most of us really don't get known for talent and that kind of stuff because nobody knows who we are. And I'll explain to you when we go down to the class the same example. But remember, I said that, right? Nobody really knows who we are. And many times that is an issue because nobody knows what you have to say. If I don't open my mouth and say anything, then nobody knows who I am. Yeah? So we're going to talk a little bit about that later down in the class. So I'm going to share my screen now. And if you all have any questions, just hold on for question time. There's a big section for questions, right? I would suggest that you use that time to ask your questions. All righty. Just now, give me 1 second. Good. Creative Content Producers Workshop Day 2. And we're getting into the meat of stuff. Objectives. Oh, this professionalism, right? We want to talk about that. We have what I would consider a professionalism expert on our group here right now in terms of Rebecca. And so some of the information that I would be sharing with you would be present from a presentation that she would have done for us, right? But I'm going to talk professionalism in context of a producer. Then we're going to talk about processes. What are your processes, right? And how to really get from having an idea to actually produce it. Then we're going to talk about production, right? And I think for today, that's where we'll probably stop, right? Tomorrow, we're going to talk about products and resources, and then finally, publicity. So, moving on, professionalism, and let me just, right, are recording, everybody? Yeah, okay, good. Professionalism is a way of thinking and living rather than an accumulation of learning. Professionalism is a way of thinking and living rather than an accumulation of learning. What this really means is that people say, like, all right, a doctor is a professional person, but really and truly, a doctor is a subject matter expert. He knows about medicine, right? A healer, right, knows about herbs. That's a subject matter expert. But professionalism is a way of thinking and living. When you're a professional, your aim is always to, let's say, for instance, you're a professional producer. Your aim is always to produce the best possible product. And that comes with a way of thinking and living, not an accumulation of learning. You could go to this class, right? And you can acquire knowledge, you could acquire learning. But if you don't apply it, if you don't discipline yourself, if you don't put the things in place, right, then all you're doing is just accumulating knowledge. Because there's a certain way that you have to conduct yourself. There's certain things a professional does. A professional is never, he or she understands that perfection is not a thing, right, that you can achieve. There's no such thing as a perfect thing. The only thing is perfect is God, right? However, they understand that they can do better. This could be better. And therefore, professionalism is a way of thinking. You always thinking about, how can I improve? How can I make what I'm doing more efficient? How can I make what I do more profitable? How can I bless others? How can I make more impact? It's a way of thinking. And with that thinking, it's a way of living. All right. So there are certain things that you want to habits that you want to inculcate. Right. There's a YouTuber called Logan Paul. Right. Now he's not a very particularly likable person. Right. But he's a YouTuber. And one of the reasons why he is so successful is that he said, I did 800 days straight of video. That's why he's a YouTuber and he's so known, because every single day, right, he made content every day for 800 days straight. Think about that. That's about probably 2 and something years, 2.25 years for every day. So along with that thinking, there's a way of conducting yourself in life. As tired as I was after I finished class, I had to prepare for today. And so even in the midst of me being tired and the class going on the way it was, I was up till 2 o'clock this morning, and then I got up at 6 to ensure that whatever I am preparing for this class is well done. It's a way of thinking. As a professional, you cannot do things half-assed. You cannot do things in an unsatisfactory manner. And it has nothing to do with the money that you receive. Whether you're doing something for free or you're doing it for $1 million, it changes not the way that you think and you live as a professional. And I want us to understand that. So in our particular profession, we often find so many ugly examples of unprofessional behavior in the name of professionalism, right? So you will go on a set and you will engage with a director who might be very obscene. He might be cussing everybody. You may go on a set and you might deal with somebody who making sexual advances towards the cast members. As a producer, right? Let's say, for instance, you're producing something and you're paying some. No, it is very wrong to play on people's insecurities. And as a producer, you should never find yourself in that situation. So we all know about Harvey Weinstein, right? Remember, Harvey Weinstein would be the person who would greenlight these projects. And he would make sexual advances or even rape some of the women that he working with, right? And now we have to understand that is not, even though, right, these people might be or call themselves professionals, right? That is not professional behavior. That has nothing. And so you would you would come on a set and a director cussing and thing because he feel that he's the shit, right? That is not my style. And as producers, if you have to work with a director, I would always encourage you to, yes, somebody might be gifted at something, but understand that even though somebody might be gifted, I would always prefer to work with somebody who really has a professional way of living. That person would always be increasing. So you and I might be able to start off you are a better director than me, but I never satisfied. So my first project, when we do it, your project looking plenty better than mine. Then my second project will look a little better. Then my third will look a little better by the fourth. By the time I find my 10th project, I start to understand now because I do it so many times. So you find that even when I direct it now, and again, I have no formal training in anything that I'm talking to about it. Yes, I would have done some courses just like you, but I have done plays. I probably did over, if I check all the camps and that kind of stuff, over 1,000 performances, right? Within the last 5 years. I have directed so many times that even when somebody say the first line, I could say, nah, this doesn't start with that. And for some of y'all, when we do the one-on-ones, you'll hear me say, nah, start again. That is not the way. And it's because I don't take what I do for granted. And even if we have to do a reading, I will sit down with an actor and say, listen, and when I talk about reading, we have these books, we have these read aloud series. When we sit down, right, I say, listen, let's go through this book. Even though you're doing it in character and that kind of stuff, it must be good because the quality is important to me. And that is professional behavior, right? And many times people are insecure about who they are and what they are doing. And so they overcompensate by being a jackass, right? And so you have to be, when you see people getting online, that you just have to be very wary and say, listen, as a producer, one of the things that you get a choice is that I choose who I work with. So you find that unless there's some reason where, because all right, I think out of everybody here on the line, Jimmy Swee is the only person that I really know just recently. Right? But there was something about Jimmy Swee that I found to be she's encouraging. I looked at some of her TikToks and that kind of stuff, and I say, yeah, this person could benefit from this. But I'm very careful with who I work with. I don't work with people that I don't like. Because at the end of the day, I understand what is the product I am looking for. I don't want to have a director on set, or most times I am the director, but if I am doing something, let's say I'm producing something only, I don't want to have a director on set who's making everybody uncomfortable. I don't want to have a director on set who inappropriate to the women on set and have them uncomfortable. It is my job to ensure that the set and the project is handled professionally. Okay, so the professional acts with integrity. And as I said before, this is all a part of Rebecca's presentation that she would normally do for me, right? You as a professional, and I think I missed a S there, right? Yeah, all the professionals didn't see that. Yeah. All right. As a professional, we must act with integrity. It's very important. There are many times when I have not had the money to do a project, right? But I will tell people from before, listen, this is what I want to do. I have no money to do it, and you want to be a part of it or not. So yesterday when I talk about don't make money an obstacle, it's very important that you act with integrity. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. Don't come and tell me because, boy, things get real hard and I have no money, all my paid jobs had to come out first. Right? If I tell you, listen, I'm going to help you do something, right? And we agree that, hey, you have no money and I am going to do it for you for free, right? Then you are going to get the best of me. That is acting with integrity because I am saying what I am going to do. If I can't do it, I can't do it. And professional is trustworthy. As a producer, people have to be able to trust you, to trust the fact that you're not going to put them in any harm or put them in any danger. Now, things could happen on a set. You understand what I'm saying? Something could get knocked loose or whatever the case might be. But as much as possible, you try to make your environment safe. People have to trust you, knowing that, hey, listen, if you're in a closed door meeting, nothing untoward will come. There's no woman that I have ever worked with could say that I made a pass at them. In the history of me doing work, people have to be able to trust you. That is very important because you ought never to abuse that which God has given to you. A professional is respectful. We could agree to disagree, right? But I don't have to curse you out to get my point across. So let us say we're doing anything and Beverly make a mistake. Beverly, what are so and how you gonna do that? No. How does that help? How does that help the product? How does that help the person? How does that help you? And it doesn't matter the age. I have a 13-year-old son, and if he directed me to do something, then he gets that full respect. At that point in time, I am the actor and he's the director. And so it's all right. So what do wrong? Yeah. No, you need to sit down. You need to, even though he's 13, we have to understand that we respect the rules, right? And respect is given regardless of persons. So not because, all right, Stephen is the director, so you'll talk good with Stephen. But the fella who cleaning up the place, you treat him like a dog because he's nobody in your eyes. That fella who clean up the place does ensure that any equipment get left behind, right? That we safeguard it. And you treat that person like a dog, they'll just say, all right, then leave the equipment there. Understand that respect is something that God requires of all of us. So when we treat each other with respect, right, the environment is easy. We could disagree. But again, respect has to do with you could disagree with me as the director, that's fine. But I'm the director and that's what we're going to do. I understand, yes, I understand that is not the way you see it, but you're the actor, I'm the director. You have to respect my job. As I will respect you. I wouldn't curse you out, but at the end of the day, if you can't do it, then I'll get someone else who can. The professional is committed. Commitment is very important. Without commitment, you'll never start. Without persistence, you'll never finish. So when you commit to something, do it. When you say you're going to do something, do it. And do it to the best of your ability, because that's what a professional does. Okay. Professional has process, right? So when you're getting your job done or when you're producing stuff, you're going to generally, and we're going to go through some tools tomorrow, right? You're generally going to have, this could be a simple Excel table, right? You're going to have different tasks, right? And there's somebody responsible for that task, right? The person who does the work, that person who's responsible is the person who does the work to achieve the task, right? But over that person who's responsible, there's a person who's accountable. And that's the person who's answerable for the correct and thorough completion of the task. So I'm going to give you an example, right? I am the director, right? And Tash is the production manager. Now, Tash's responsibility is to ensure on the day that we have correct lighting, right? She would be responsible for that. And she may assign that responsibility to a lightsman. So we shoot the scene and the lights not good. And the director says, all right, that's a wrap. Come now to editing. And the editor watches the footage and say, but we can't use this footage that. Who's responsible and who's accountable in that scenario? Anybody?
The lightman is responsible and I should be held accountable because I should have reviewed what happened before it hit the stage.
Who's responsible?
The lightman, because it's his actual job to do the lighting. He knows what to do, but I should have been held accountable because I should have overseen what happened.
And ultimately, who's accountable?
Me?
No, the director.
Director?
The director says it's a wrap. If you say it's a wrap and we go on, then you now consider that everything is done. Remember, you are accountable to a producer. So if you are the director, right? So accountability can happen in phases, right? Because the director is the person who has to answer for everybody. The person consulted, the person who provides information, which is the subject matter, which example is subject matter, right? So you will have consultants. In Rachel's example yesterday, she wanted to do an animation, but she doesn't know where to start. So she's going to need a consultant, somebody who has done an animation before. So she has to ensure that we have a subject matter expert, right? There's a person who needs to be informed, who has to be kept up to date on the progress of the project. So a director is a person who needs to be informed. So does the producer, because the producer is the person who basically has the vision for everything, right? So he has to be there are certain people that needs to be informed of what is going on. Let's say we're doing an animation project, right? And the illustrator didn't do the correct drawing. He drew the lips too big or whatever the case might be. And the animating director went with that. But he knows that is not what the director is looking for. And he doesn't inform the director. It's stuff you have to do over to correct that because you just didn't inform somebody. So if you have a simple Excel sheet, you could build out something like this. Deadline, right? A submission date of task. You must always have an internal deadline and an external deadline, right? And neither of it should, all of them should be before the time that is actually required. So let us say, for instance, the movie we make launching on February 28th, right? We cannot have a deadline, an external deadline, right, of February 27th, 11:59, right? And we have an internal deadline of February 27th, 9 o'clock in the morning. If that happens, if there's anything that needs to change, there's no time to change it. So as a rule, which doesn't always happen, because many times as a producer, you're depending on other people. But you should have a system in place that you know that, okay, if this doesn't work out, all right, I have a backup idea, or I have a backup plan. So I ensure that, all right, this needs to be edited by February 14th. I will review it and that kind of stuff, make any changes. Anything that has to change needs to be done by February 20th. By February 22nd is my external deadline. So that gives me at least 6 days before the 28th, that if anything whatsoever, right? Let's say some mistake slip all of us and needs to be changed, I have the time to change it. So it's very important that you have deadlines, right? And while you are going through the process, that you know what is the status of each job. So for instance, right now, if it is you're going to do, let's say, we're going to do an audio book, but right now, the studio is not available. And we said that we're going to shoot, we're going to record on Monday. But Monday, the studio becomes unavailable. We have to now record on Wednesday, but our release date is Friday. So we have to track now where that job is, where that process is. Is it on time? Is it delayed? Is it completed? And that's very important, right? As a professional, and a lot of this stuff, sometimes like I will have it in my head, but it's really good to have this stuff written down, right? It's a little tedious, but I'm telling you, because especially now as the organization is growing, production is growing, I'm doing 2 television series, campaign at the same time, and I'm still shooting children content, all at the same time. I have to know where everything is. Yeah? And if I have that stuff documented, then I can now share it with other persons. So other people who are responsible for this, like for instance, my son is helping with the editing. I can say, Samuel, this is where we need to do this. We need to do this first because this deadline is before this. If you have a system like that, it works much better. And update, what was done to address and solve the issue that resulted in the flag? So sorry, flag, what caused the delay, right? Something caused the delay. In the example I gave just now, the studio was closed. So what was done to address and solve the issue that resulted in the flag? The studio was closed, so we postponed the date to Wednesday, right? That's the update. Everybody following what I'm saying so far?